How do you make a story feel intimate? When we talk about intimacy, we're talking about being close, personal, and deeply relatable with something or someone. Intimacy is the label for the visceral, private relationship between two things, and when we're talking about intimacy in film, we're talking about the close connection between the audience and what they're experiencing. I think that few mainstream directors working today create intimate cinema quite like Ryan Coogler. Across his last 3 films, Coogler has shown an almost unparalleled ability to imbue his work with a deeply drawn sense of visceral connectivity. His films feel close, personal, and relatable, and they're all f***ing amazing. I think that Creed is probably the best work to showcase these qualities, as it exists at the midpoint between the ultra-low budget Fruitvale Station and the mega franchise hit Black Panther. Creed is a movie that's better than it really had any right to be. It's a spin-off 7th entry in a near 40-year-old franchise featuring a completely new lead character. And yet, Coogler managed to turn this movie that I personally thought looked like a joke into one of the greatest sequels of all time. Granted, when I saw Creed in November 2015, I hadn't seen Fruitvale Station, so I really wasn't prepared at all for the A-grade throttling I was about to receive. You gotta watch Fruitvale Station. Creed came out physically swinging from the very first shot, and I spent the rest of the experience in a state of hysteric shock, just kind of like, oh my god. Like, just imagine for a second that you had rock bottom expectations going into the movie and then watching this happen within the first 30 seconds.
Come on, tighten it up. Condition unit 1, copy that, on the ground. Show me hands, let's go. Hands.
Code blue.
Now, it wasn't just those kind of creative flourishes that knocked me out, though that kind of extended take approach works wonders for keeping the audience in the moment. What I really found stunning was the way Coogler approached allowing me to access the story and characters. He seemed to bypass that whole handheld camera confined space documentary feel we often hear talked about in relation to movies with a strong sense of realism in favour of something far more personal. Coogler seemed to just let me in. Let's take a look at this sequence from about a quarter of the way through the movie because it probably best exemplifies what I'm talking about. Don't get me wrong, Creed nails this from frame 1, but this section really brings it home. In this scene, Adonis, or Donnie, I'm just going to call him Donnie for the rest of the video, has asked his neighbour Bianca out for food. It's not a date. And this is where we're going to get to know a bit about her. By all means, it's a pretty basic dialogue-heavy sequence, but the genius comes from the intimate way that Coogler delivers it. Let's wind it back to the start and look at some of the techniques he uses to give it that sense of grounded authenticity. What's important from the get-go is establishing the scene. It's not just about staging location or time of day, though Coogler does that consistently. I'm talking establishing the scene itself. I'm talking establishing the kind of conflict and emotion that we're supposed to run with as the scene progresses. Here we have Donnie in his pretty bare apartment, lights off, trying to call his adopted mum who doesn't really want to have anything to do with him now that he's pursuing a boxing career like his long deceased father. He's feeling pretty low, and his fridge is looking depressingly empty. You could probably even say he's feeling kinda lonely, and the relatively distant framing helps boost that feeling. Cue the bassy thump of Bianca's music from downstairs. We met Bianca just a few scenes back in a brilliantly awkward, angsty doorway exchange. Donnie's trying to sleep and Bianca's music downstairs is just way too loud. He's got to do something about it. Thing is, Donnie doesn't know who's living down there yet. He heads down all fired up and ready to blast whoever comes to the door and goes all kind of deer in the headlights when he comes face to face with Bianca.
I'm Donnie.
Yeah?
He's kind of unexpectedly struck by her, and that's reinforced later when he stumbles across one of her live shows in a truly beautiful moment that suggests that there may be some form of romance to come.
Take me to the floor, to the floor. I need more, I need more.
So anyway, back in our focus scene, we get that music cue and this great little moment of Donnie working out what to do. He's kind of working up a little bit of courage, and all Coogler had to do to give what follows some kind of stake to it was show that little moment. If he'd skipped that tiny, intimate detail, we'd have lost a lot from the rest of the sequence. Next we cut to this wide on the stairwell landing with Donnie knocking on Bianca's door. Note the chick just walking on up here. It's simple, but that single extra just turned this pretty lifeless location into a tangible place, and all it took was her just going on about her business. She's off doing her own shit, just like Donnie is doing his. Bianca opens up.
What, it's too loud?
Jesus Christ, that sass just about burnt off my eyebrows. Now, what I love about this exchange is the way the dynamic between these two characters is staged. You have this standoffish thing going on between them in the doorway, Bianca with the full power of the scene because she's holding the door, and Donnie is going all shy and nervous. Both of them are trying to get a read on each other in their own ways, and that's a situation we can all relate to. Coogler and cinematographer Maurice Alberti have this whole soft handheld thing going on, and it's keeping us present and in the moment without drawing attention to itself like this. Bianca is giving Donnie the cold shoulder, and because of that moment earlier, we feel his disappointment as he turns away because his courage amounted to nothing.
Hey, yo. I'm hungry.
As Bianca 180s and warms to Donnie somewhat, she closes the door a bit, and it compresses the space between them on camera. Remember, intimacy comes from that feeling of closeness, so using frames within frames allows us to focus in on the characters. So Bianca is game to go get food, because it's not a date. She heads back inside and we return to the stairwell wide shot where this dude drops one of the highlights of the movie.
Luck, man.
Like, that little detail does so much for authenticity. It's just a random interaction with a passerby, but its spontaneous nature works wonders to keep that feeling of Creed's version of Philadelphia being real and alive. And speaking of keeping it real, how about this next section of the sequence? This shit is just amazing. Donnie and Bianca head on down to Max's in North Philly, and here we can start to add stuff up. Remember what I've covered so far in terms of authenticity, connectivity, and now spontaneity, because the way Coogler plays those things here is just perfection.
So where are we?
North Philly. So this is Max's?
Hey, superstar.
Hey.
What's going on?
I'm well, thanks. How you doing?
You looking wonderful as always.
Thank you.
How
This
you doing that, my friend?
is my neighbor, and he's a West Coast boy, and we've had a steak before.
You guys see that? That's probably the realest shit I've ever seen in a studio movie. I'm talking specifically about that kind of awkward interruption. How often do you see something like that in a movie, at least outside of two characters arguing anyway? Never. It just doesn't happen. Bianca takes Donnie to a busy corner steakhouse where the staff know her, and their communication is so authentic that they talk over each other. I mean, come on, this is a fully three-dimensional location inhabited by real people doing their own thing, and it feels relatable to us because of that. Coogler understands that realistic communication between people isn't clean and precise, it's messy and uncertain, and he finds the authenticity in the moments between words. There's pause for consideration and patience while listening just as much as there's an eagerness to express and verbalise. As Donnie and Bianca sit down to eat, Coogler throws in the final few ingredients he uses when creating intimacy. Have a look at this location. Not only are we once again seeing these two characters framed in tighter using environmental obstructions, but just look at that colour. That's a warm, comfy red, and the reason it feels that way is because, well, that's the colour of the location. It's not some neutral brick or plaster wall washed in red light to get that feeling, but a location that already has that inbuilt effect because it's real, natural, and just generally authentic. And then there's the way Donnie and Bianca talk, and this may be Creed's biggest strength. There's no fluff, no excess, no grand allegorical monologues or anecdotes. It's all about what's here and now. These two people have known each other for barely more than an hour and are already talking about what they care about, what drives them, and what scares them, and that is what we really attach to. We see both Donnie and Bianca think through what they want to ask and what they want to say. It's delicate, it's respectful, and it all stems from each of them understanding that the other is a real person. Sure, they can joke and laugh, but they can really relate to each other as human beings because each of them has passions and desires, and sharing that over something as mundane as a cheesesteak is what intimacy is all about. And don't you worry, I was never going to get through a whole video on Creed without talking about the rock that is, Rocky. You see, Coogler was given a gift with this franchise's 40-year history, and he was also wise enough to use it. If there's one thing that can truly make the story and the characters in it feel real more than any of the techniques I've covered so far, it's having a deep sense of history that affects everything that happens on screen. The characters in Creed are a product of the history that preceded them, and the conflicts faced by Donnie and Rocky are directly tied to the events of a past that was beyond their control. Without that 40-year history, you can't get scenes like this.
Everything I got is moved on, and I'm here. But you know what? It's okay. Because I said to myself, if I break, if I'm hurt, whatever, I ain't gonna fix it. Why bother?
And I'm just some bum that's living in your crib, just nothing.
You're a good kid and a good fighter. But you got your whole future ahead of you. Mine? Back there, like all them guys on that wall. In the back. In the past.
Just like us, these characters are the result of their past, and sometimes the events that have shaped them were out of their control. In a moment like that, shared in private between two people who really care for each other, we're part of an intimate exchange that feels close, personal, and relatable. I think that Creed really is nothing short of a marvel. It's a movie that bleeds authenticity, and that's something that comes from a creator paying attention to the finer, more nuanced details of life. Coogler shows us that truly intimate moments can be captured by approaching each scene with a quiet focus on the subtleties of human interaction and drawing on the rich textures inherent in what makes a person who they are. Intimacy is found in the little things, like a guy working up the courage to ask out a girl, or joking about bullshit over a cheesesteak. It can be found in a comment from a stranger, or in the coziness of a diner. Sometimes it's in the moments after the action, where someone reflects on what they've done, or what they've said, or what they're going to do next. And sometimes intimacy is just in the silence shared between two people who truly understand each other. Alright everyone, thank you so much for watching this video. It's one of my favourites that I've decided to bring over from my other channel and give it a new home here because I think it fits in with this style of content better, and hopefully it can find a new audience with you guys and whoever else finds it on this channel. I want to hear what you guys thought of this video, and I want to hear what you guys thought of this movie and its upcoming sequel and just the Rocky franchise in general, so let me know about that stuff in the comments below. If you have not yet subscribed to this channel, be sure to do so. I have a ton of exciting stuff on its way that I cannot wait to share with you guys, so make sure to subscribe so that you don't miss a thing. I also have Twitter and Instagram, you can find those links down there somewhere. I also have a Patreon that I use to basically support what I do. You guys are basically supporting this entire endeavor, so thank you so much to anyone who is doing that already. If you do feel like signing up to that Patreon, we offer a bunch of cool exclusive rewards and behind the scenes on there, so definitely check it out. Anyway, thank you so much for watching this video. I will see you guys in the next one.